Hello, hello. I'm going to go over a couple things for you guys today, but I want to start off by saying, have you ever had that feeling when you're laying in bed at night, you're about to fall asleep, and you realize you didn't just punt once, you punted twice? That is me right now. It's part of why I'm going to show you this game. This is a game I played against somebody who watches my videos here and just got into MTGO, and he has to play a couple games against me. And in the second series, I decided to play my Storm deck against him. And I punt this game, but I don't only punt this game. I punt this twice because in my head, I think I've punted, but I really didn't. Um, so I decided to go over this game to talk a little bit about Doomsday and some of the things you can do with it, as well as maybe get into some deeper lines that I maybe or maybe won't talk about. So you get to see me gloriously punt this game not once but twice, and I don't even realize that I punted it the second time until I'm laying down later in the night, and I kind of like sit up out of my bed and go, "Oh shit, I really messed up." So I'm going to tell you the whole pile up front, so it's going to make it seem really, really stupid. But as soon as I see this hand, I know this is a turn two Doomsday kill instantly. I can recognize that right away. Um, because we got a probe to pull a card off the top of the library, and we've got Brainstorm, and we've got two fetch lands, so we've got our Gush online. So I can bend the Chrome Mox to the Toxic Deluge and fetch double blue black lands with these two fetch lands, and I'll be able to produce my three black as well as have Gush online. Now, the first thing you have to note is when you're using Brainstorm and Probe to open a pile or using your resources like this, what you cannot do is you cannot open with Probe into Gush. And the reason you can't open Probe into Gush is because you've then drawn three cards from your deck and the Brainstorm will kill you. So in that vein, Ponder may seem like the better card. However, in this case, it's very fortuitous that I have this Brainstorm, and you're going to see why here in a second. Um, so right now I'm going to play my fetch, and I'm pretty much just going to hope that he taps out on turn two and doesn't pass with the counter spell. If he does, I'm not even going to take the Doomsday line. But if he taps out, we're going to go for the win because that's what we should do. Um, Odds of him having Force of Will or something like that in his hand is fairly low. So he taps out and plays a Sapphire Medallion. But notice we've drawn Yawgmoth's Will. The standard pile for this, which is going to make it seem much easier now that I'm just going to tell you the pile, is to pick Lotus Petal off the top with a Gitaxian Probe, use that to play your Brainstorm, and then whatever card I draw off the top is going to put Yawgmoth's Will down and a dead card down, and it's going to Gush Cracking LED to get the Yawgmoth's Will. And then typically what you do is you'd probe into Labman in slot 5, and then you'd Brainstorm for the win. However, um, because I've drawn the Yawgmoth's Will, not only would this pile be impossible with the Ponder, but now it's just a 4-card pile because we don't even need the 5th card in the pile. There's no way to make use of it at all, actually. So what you want to do is you can put Lab Mana in the 4th or the 5th slot. The only thing that matters is if you do pick the Lab Mana up with the Brainstorm, you cannot put it back down or it will get exiled to the LED. So the pile itself, the 4th or 5th card, the order doesn't matter. In this game, for whatever reason, I decide that I have punted because I put Labman 4th, even though I've already decided it's a 4-card pile, and I think I even say something to the effect of, "Oh, this is easy, it's a 4-card pile." And he goes, "Uh-oh." And I think maybe that's his uh-oh, and I think, "Oh, this is simple, it's just a 4-card pile." And for a while I think, what should my 5th card be? Then I realize I don't need the 5th card, since I'm using the Brainstorm. So it starts off fine. Oops, okay. Oh, we missed the epic punt. I clicked too many times. I'm definitely going back to watch that again. It was this one. So let's do this, do this, do this. Okay. Let's see if I can get through casting Doomsday without messing this thing up. I don't know why. For whatever reason, when you cast Doomsday in a replay, the game like massively freezes. One click shows it. Maybe I have to click once for each card I click on or something like that. Let's see. Let's see if it just goes. It's doing things. I see it clicking Gush. Is it clicking other cards? Let's try one more time. Click again. Did I see it highlight something else? Come on. Now I see LED. If it does it really fast again for no reason, I'm going to be slightly upset. Let's just click play and then pause. Okay. So it doesn't matter where I put this lab man. All that matters is the Lotus Petal is on top. Okay, so we probe. There's nothing there to kill us. Now when I cast this Brainstorm, it doesn't matter. I don't have to actually probe to pick the lab man off the top. All I have to do is stick the Bloodcrypt and Yawgmoth's Will down, cast LED, bending the lab man to the gush, and then it's as simple as Yawgmoth's Will, LED, lab man, Lotus Petal, Brainstorm, game is over. Um, Note, even if I had the Ponder, and I had made this a 5-card pile, you'd have had to do it the other way to pick the lab man up. But if I even had it from this position, it wouldn't matter because you could still probe out after that. But I don't do that. Instead, I put the lab man deck back down because I thought I punted, and then I actually punt by putting the lab man down with the Brainstorm. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That I fucked that up pretty much as hard as you could possibly fuck that up. I do want to talk about the fact that you need to be aware of your resources, and there are a few cute things Brainstorm can do there. So something you just saw there was I put the Yawgmoth's Will down. Sometimes that can actually be a resource, right? You can use it to put a card that's effectively good down onto your pile, and then get access to multiple cards off the pile to start your chain and then win the game. For instance, if your hand had just a blue mana and a Time Twister, you can do what I call a 50% pile. This is a little bit more of an advanced pile. I'm just going to go to my... we'll just close out of that. Go to my actual collection here, and let's pull up Jaleva. Now, this is actually more like a 51% pile, but I really don't even want to get into all the math involved because there's just a few permutations that work when it's not the right way. If you have a Time Twister in your hand, okay, and you can cast Doomsday, and you have nothing but a Brainstorm and a blue, you have just these cards in your hand, okay, just these cards, this you can guarantee a win with, okay, because when you put the Time Twister back down in the pile, you can now use Gitaxian Probe and LED. Where are you, LED? Burp. And plus a card. And you can pick the Time Twister back up and you can draw into, doesn't even matter what your plus a card is, you can draw into Mana Crypt and Petal. And your 6th card is going to be Lab Man, but you're going to use a Time Twister from your hand. Burp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to draw into Lab Man, Petal, Mana Crypt, and Git Probe. Now, if you have more cards in your hand is where the 50% and the scary pile gets. Let's say you've got some other random cards in your hand that don't actually do anything in Doomsday, like Mind's Desire, Notion Thief, and Past in Flames. Once you've gone to 10 cards, Brainstorm no longer kills you from the redraw, and you can actually set up Yawgmoth's Will. So what you can do is you can replace one of the cards in your pile. This pile doesn't even You can replace the Mana Crypt with Yawgmoth's Will, and now all of a sudden, if you get Brainstorm and Petal in your Time Twister hand, you can win. That's not quite 50%, but there's also some permutations where if the Brainstorm is down and you have the Petal, you could potentially probe into Yawgmoth's Will on top of your deck if it's also on top. Pretty much if it's piled Yawgmoth's Will Petal or Yawgmoth's Will Brainstorm. Where's my Brainstorm? It's somewhere. Then you could potentially win off pushing all in when you think you've whiffed. It's important to note these piles are almost never used just because the situation where they come about doesn't happen very much because you pretty much have to decide that you're okay with losing half the time because if you pass, you feel like your odds of winning is less than 50%. But it's interesting to note you can do things with them. But I just thought it was a pretty cool Doomsday punt to show you and want to talk a little bit about Brainstorm and how you can use it as an additional resource depending on what cards in your hand. Additionally, like say you have a like LED, you can almost always crack to a Brainstorm. But let's say you have like a Cabal Ritual or something like that that you couldn't cast initially. You can always put that card back into your pile as an extra card, and all of a sudden you can find ways to finish. Though typically, if you did Cabal Ritual, right, you would cast it off Doomsday. But let's say it's something a little more different than that. Let's say it's something like a Hercules Recall. You can all of a sudden make weird piles with cards like Mox Opal and Mana Crypt, and all of a sudden use this as a resource in your pile, especially if you've got top, because then you can get an extra draw out of cracking the recall. So it's important to note when you do have Brainstorm, though it does have some disadvantages in that you can't obviously open a pile with a different cantrip and then use Gush immediately if you want to use the Brainstorm. You can put cards back down in your pile, and if you get key cards stuck in your hand, like you saw in that game with the Yawgmoth's Will, its utility is actually really, really good, especially if it's cards you already want in your pile. Like let's say you have a Gush in your hand, and you need to be able to get the Gush online. Like let's say you need to have the second blue source. You can use the Brainstorm to put the Gush. Sorry, my headset has been cutting in and out all the time lately. I don't know why it does that, but hopefully that won't continue. So I thought that was interesting. I thought I'd put that in the video. But now I want to get to kind of my simic deck. Hopefully, I think this last game does not bug. And it was actually a pretty cool game where I had decent competition here. And I made some interesting decisions. I'll actually I'll pull up what I'm currently playing. Burp. For the simic deck. I've been making changes as I go. Burp. I've been tinkering with the idea, or I actually got the idea rather from someone else who recommended of playing a little bit more creature tutor to find the Seedborn Muse. And I thought about the Wordly Tutor, and I didn't really like the idea of playing it. However, I think the next card I'm going to add is the NO. The NO, I think, even though it's at a 4 slot, I can probably cut a 4-drop for it. This card's maybe the best cut, even though I think it's just too fun with this deck. Getting to actually play this the way the deck is playing out when it's not in your opening hand is probably not so good. And this is pretty much just Chromebox fodder or discard fodder for something. You could potentially cut the Simulacrum, even though it's good on the Birthing Pod Chain and is a creature. The card is just not very good as is. In fact, what I'm going to do right now is zip. Simulacrum is now gone. But the main thing is you can easily sacrifice this card to get your Seedborn Muse online, and it's not that big of a deal. Though obviously you would want to have an extra 4 mana to recast it to get immediate value out of it. So getting to 8 mana and then being able to cast NO to chain that way isn't so bad. But also you can NO into the Vorinclex, which it's a really strong play, especially if you have follow-up. But if you have to tap out to it, it can be a little sketchy. However, I think NOing my commander into a Vorinclex is probably a slightly stronger play than just Solemn. Maybe not as safe. But I think I'm going to test this out a little bit. But this is what it currently looks like. I've just changed a few things. But I actually got a really good game here. No, it's a count. Burp. Did I already load the replay? Yes, I did. Where I win the die roll, which is incredibly fortuitous because this is a pretty tight game. And I get an excellent hand here with 2 counter spells. Soul Ring into Oracle of Moldiah, and my buddy here, Pollencron. So the first thing to note is, do I want to go with Fetch Land first or Island? And typically this is just going to be Island for a couple of reasons. One, you could get a crafting spell, obviously, to use with the Windswept Heath. 2, it'll let you make better use of the Oracle Moldiah that you already have, though if I don't draw a green land, that's not going to be relevant. And 3, you could choose to get Basic Forest if you draw lots of islands, and or you're afraid of non-basic land hate, or you're drawing Nature's Lore, or just want to leave the other ones in the deck for if you draw more, though typically a green-only fetch will get the dual land. So I'm going to lead the island, which actually ends up being very important this game. So, people mulling, draw another island off the top, Soul Ring. Now, I'm against Edric, Spymaster Tress, Titania, and Maelstrom Wanderer. My biggest threat right here is the Edric. Edric decks are very fast. They can be built in multiple ways. And the deck is just incredibly scary. It usually has a 1-drop acceleration play. It'll either play more acceleration after that or quickly drop Edric. If it's Flying Man variant, it might just drop a Flying Man, which isn't so bad. But typically they have a pretty good turn 1 play, so I'm quite happy to see Soul Ring here in the Edric matchup. And he plays a horrible card for me turn 1, Carpet of Flowers, which is absolutely disgusting. So I'm actually going to attempt to play around this Carpet of Flowers to not get slaughtered by the Edric. And I was very happy to see his Carpet didn't immediately activate to put another Mana Dork into play. That would have been absolutely brutal. But luckily that doesn't happen. The Titania player gets her own Soul Ring. And poor Maelstrom Wanderer, the king of ramp, just plays a tap land. So, draw another island off the top. So this is going to be incredibly awkward. I'm going to fetch a basic forest and play Oracle. Regrowth on top, and what did I just do there? I could have played the secondary island right now, which typically you'd want to do. But if you look, I don't have really the hit cards. I'm not ready to go off. And feeding Edric mana from this position is just absolutely horrible. So I'm going to, in fact, just not play either of those islands. He's going to make use and plays Edric. He doesn't have any kind of acceleration other than the Carpet. So far, so good. We've slowed him down. We get just a sack land here, which will allow him to play his commander on his next turn, even without a land. And I'm pretty sure that he revealed it. No, he revealed Windswept Heath. So we know he has another land in his hand. Training Grounds is on top, which is actually an excellent card, and would be very, very good at powering out this Triton hero, as I really don't have card draw from this position. However, in order to play the Training Grounds, I either have to play no lands this turn and pass, right, or play islands or single island and feed Edric's Carpet of Flowers. And I decide that I absolutely cannot feed Edric's Carpet of Flowers, and the best move instead is to ditch Training Grounds and just pick up my Windswept Heap with the Regrowth and just continue to fetch non-island cards. Just going to get another basic forest. And luckily, I pull a land off the top of my deck, which is not an island, so I will happily play a Wasteland. And Forbid on top of my deck is actually a really good card. I'm going to go ahead in here and play the secondary commander because I feel like I can pass one more time. I don't feel like Edric is ready to, with just potentially 4 mana, to start time warping. Absolute worst thing could happen is Notorious Throng. So I've left myself open to Notorious Throng. However, I've now tempoed enough to where I feel like I can potentially hold him down as long as he doesn't go off this turn. I've got plenty of counter spells banked. And I actually don't care so much about the Edric because I want to be able to draw cards off of him because I don't have my own card draw engine. I dumped it. But I'm actually going to use Edric as my resource for drawing cards this game. So he plays Flying Man, which I'm pretty happy about. And he plays Chromox, which I'm pretty not happy about. And then he taps 4, and I'm like, please don't be Notorious Throng. But he plays the other tribal rogue sorcery, and he plays Knowledge Exploitation. And at this point, he makes the one blunder he makes in this game. I actually talked to this guy for a while after the game. He doesn't grab Time Spiral out of my deck. He chooses Recurring Insight. And he told me after the fact that he thought it was going to rebound, but if you read rebound, it's if you cast from your hand, you get the rebound. But even if it did do that, I think the best play is Time Spiral, because he untaps his lands to gain tempo. I guess since he only has 3 lands, it's not super good. But maybe he doesn't know that he is getting rid of an absolutely epic hand if he does. I have all the answers I need in the world to slow the other players down. However, I don't really end up needing all of them. But instead, he just pops Recurring Insight. So I'm quite happy I don't lose my hand. Titania comes down. Devastation Tide Miracled for Maelstrom Wanderer, which at first I'm not too happy about because I'm losing the commander that I tapped out to. This tends to happen all too often with Kaidella, that when you take the time to invest in her, even when you get the good opportunity, because you get something like a Soul Ring, she somehow ends up getting messed with before you actually get to activate her, which is kind of annoying. But if you think about this, this not only gets rid of all of Edric's tempo, it's finally going to get this Carpet of Flowers off the board, and I'm going to be able to play my islands. So it's actually is excellent because I can replay my Oracle off the Soul Ring, and I can drop my islands, and then I can't hold 2 counter spells up for Carpet of Flowers, but I don't feel like I can just pass on Denial and Delay and hope to develop. But I get a Forest off the top, which is excellent, and I'll play 1 island just in case he's able to play Carpet plus Counterspell. I don't want to give him any more mana. So Carpet comes down. This is easy Counterspell. And luckily for me, he does not have a counter. His Disruption is just not there this game. So he plays a bunch of silly dorks. We both get to draw cards. I get my Rift. Soul Ring, resacks his land, retitanias, rebrings back his land. Ghost Quarter's my wasteland, which is interesting because it gives me the opportunity now to counter Maelstrom Wanderer, which is kind of nice, and I feel quite safe getting islands now that my opponent no longer has the Carpet of Flowers. He could potentially try to pick it back up, but at this point I've really got the board kind of counter locked out a little bit. Wanderer goes for Explosive Vegetation. Now I could use the delay, but I honestly feel like since Wanderer costs 8, he's not going to be able to do anything on his next turn, and I plan on being able to develop with the Edric and replaying my Kydella that I have pretty good odds of winning on the subsequent turn. So I'm completely okay saving my delay for more important things, since it's fairly cheap. Psalm Simulacrum on top. Not what I wanted to see. Part of the reason I fetched is because I didn't like the top of my deck. I'm going to play both Kydella and my commander here, which is going to give me the option of scrying. I only think I'm going to need one counter spell. It was a little bit greedy in that I can't now keep 2 counter spells up since both these players could be rocking Time Warps. However, I feel confident that I need to be able to dig a little bit. I haven't really hit a true hit card to finish the game off yet, so I would like to keep my options open. He plays the Edric, which is exactly what we want. Had he not played the Edric, we'd have actually had more of a problem because then we wouldn't have had easy ways to draw cards. Nyla God of the Hunt, which is the first card this guy's played that doesn't really concern me. Fairly well-made Titania deck. He's making use of the Edric as well. Every other card I think he's played other than this Nyla God of the Hunt is pretty good cards in Titania. Harrow, making lots of dudes. Ancient Stirrings, another good card. Probably underplayed in this format. Transverse, another good card. His reveals are Azusa and Extraplanar Lens, so he's about to go nuts. The Wanderer cannot yet cast Wanderer. If he casts a creature, I'm going to counter it. The reason being, I still have another counter in my hand. I feel like I can ditch the Forbid and keep the delay up because it's cheaper to try to stop any counter Edric has if I get a winning line. But he plays Boundless Realms, which is, to me, just completely worthless because I pretty much have to win on my turn. So I can not counter, and I get a free scry/draw. So he dumps tons of cards, and I get to get rid of Sad Robot, which I don't want to see at all. So Sad Robot down. Chord of Calling on top. And that is the combo. However, we're going to play our Forest off the top. We're going to play our Misty off the top. We're going to fetch because we don't want to land. Yay, another land. And now we're going to swing into the Edric to make sure we can take the best possible line. It's not going to deny us Chord of Calling mana because it's just going to increase Kydella's ability to make mana, so it doesn't actually hamper our mana at all. It just gives us more chances to get good cards. And the second card is Metamorph, which is actually excellent because if you look at the mana here, if I go for Chord of Calling out the gate and I go for a Vorinclex and he has a counterspell, I'm not going to be able to counterspell behind the Palinchron because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for Klex. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess I would be able to counterspell behind it. But if he counterspells the Chord of Calling, I'm kind of screwed. So the idea here is to open with the Palinchron. I think you're going to see me tap and then decide, wait, this is bad. I was actually right about to cast it, and then I decided that's not my best line because I have the Metamorph. The best line is to open with Palinchron. Now, the reason I did that is because if he has a counter, I can counter his counter, and I'll still get my untaps with the Palinchron, and then we're still going to infinity and beyond because we get to go Chord of Calling into Klex and still have enough mana to Metamorph. Now, the opposite thing is true here also. If we now go Chord of Calling for Klex, we've got the mana to counter, and he had the 1 mana counter. It was an Abjure. His counter, and still drop Metamorph to go infinite, which at this point the game is now over because I have infinite mana and the commander out. So at this point, it's just going through the motions. I hit the write a replication. I kick it just because it's going to shortcut. How many times I have to click on MTGO and make this a lot simpler. And they all scoop it in. Boop, except for my Edric arch nemesis in this game, who then packs it in. It would have just been a matter of finding Aether Flux Reservoir to finish the game. So, I hope you guys enjoy this hybrid video, which features my new blue-green deck having a pretty good game and doing what it does best, though I guess notably I didn't get Seaborn Muse this game. I guess I could try to show you the game before. I'm not sure if it bugs or not. Let's check. Yeah, I got time. Let's go through one more game. Yeah, this game was kind of fun. This was the Thrasos mirror, though the opponents were not quite as good in this game. But it kind of encompasses what I want to be doing with this deck. So, Corrosive the Purger leads Mountain, which to me says very, very good things, because in those colors, usually red's the splash. And if he's playing Mountain, I feel like he's somewhat color screwed. Top off the top isn't bad. Originally, I was thinking, do I want to Chrome Mox, Archmage, Cyclonic Rift, or Mind Over Matter? And I was thinking it's probably Archmage, even though I don't really want to get out this on turn 1. But with the top, I don't really feel like I need to. I feel like I can instead just play top. And I can still get him out on my second turn. I'm probably not going to draw a 3-drop with my curve. So going 2-drop into 3-drop probably isn't going to happen. And this isn't a 2-drop I want to be playing as a 2-drop anyway. So playing like second turn Rift, like the sequencing isn't really that important. Now I also get a check with my top to maybe find a better card to stick underneath. And the only card I can stick underneath is Witness. And from this position, I give Archmage a little more weight than the Witness. And I decide to play my Commander. Now I still have the option to Archmage depending on what people do. He follows up with his own King Triton. And our Corrosive the Purger guy taps 2 mountains and passes. I have a feeling this guy should have mulliganed. Goblin Matron goes and gets Warren Instigator, which is slightly scary. Some nasty things can happen. This guy is a Storm deck, and he can easily go off. And we top a Mana Crypt without even spinning our top, which is absolutely excellent. Notice I chose to use the fetch land because the other 2 cards on top were lands, and I didn't really want lands. But Mana Crypt is much better than land. And what Mana Crypt's going to allow me to do here is check with top, and I see lands, and I see Court of Calling, which is an excellent card in this deck. So I play the Breeding Pool tap because there's no use for the mana, and I get to throw down Kaidella. And can you see the line? I guess, actually, I should probably go back to show you what the other card was. But he goes Warren Instigator, Court of Calling, draw, Command Tower. We'll just say that it wasn't as good as this. But pretty much I get to grab Seaborn Muse and make my land drop, which is excellent because now if I use his ability and draw a card, I get to draw 2 per activation because I can tap my Kaidella, which is why we did it that way. It was not Counterspell, and I didn't put a land in play. Oh, it did bug. That's unfortunate. Okay. That sucks. Long story short, that wasn't a land, and it wasn't Counterspell on top. It was a land, and I put it on bottom, and I hit a card, and I got to activate again. I did the same thing on Corrosive the Purger's turn, and I found a Memory Jar. And once I had the Memory Jar, it was casting Cyclonic Rift on attack step for red player, hoping to bait Counterspell from blue player. Blue player Mystic Stakes the Cyclonic Rift, and I get a big cheesy smile on my face because I can now go Mind Over Matter, discarding cards that I've drawn off of Thrasos to play Memory Jar, crack Memory Jar without tapping Kaidella, get a new hand where she is at 8, and now I have my Mind Over Matter combo, and I instantly win. But unfortunately, the game bugged and that didn't happen. That's definitely going to be in this video for me. I hope you enjoyed this hybrid, showing my new blue-green deck, which has been quite fun to play, and watching me punt miserably in Doomsday, which I'm sure you'll all enjoy. Moxnix signing out.